serious?
Sir?
This man murdered my sister.
Sir, if you don't settle down...
He raped her. He strangled her.
Sir, please don't have me call security.
You are a murderer.
No, that's it.
Your Honor, you will not be calling anybody. Nobody's gonna move. Sir, put your gun down.
Sir, you don't mean to do this.
Your Honor, if this jury means to let the murderer of my sister walk free, I can assure you, I very much mean to do this.
There are 2 armed men right here in this room. Your hand is shaking. Look at it. It's shaking.
But mine isn't. Guards have 10 seconds to drop their weapons or the detective is dead.
Mr. Trissino.
I'm an ex-cop. I'm a trained marksman. You don't want to test me, Judge. Your Honor, I suggest you take us very seriously.
Drop the weapons.
Now, what we're going to do is we're going to have a second trial. But this time we will let you hear all the evidence that did not happen the first time.
Sir, look at me, please. This can only have one ending here. And you seem smart enough to know that, sir.
Is that what you think? You can only imagine one ending because I can envision a multitude. Anything from no casualties to quite a few. I ask you, Judge, in your ending, how do you make out? Now, I'm prepared to begin with my opening argument. If you'd like to make an opening statement, counsel.
I would. Actually, I left it back in my office. Can I go get it?
Does this strike you as funny? May I ask what you find most amusing? Is it the fact that my 20-year-old sister was raped? She was strangled to death. Or maybe it's the fact that the man who did it just got acquitted. I wonder which gives you the most giggles.
The fact that your sister's life is over is tragic. The idea that yours will probably be over as a result of this is also tragic. The notion that you would enlist your father in this, when he's already lost one child, is quite frankly appalling. You still have a bit of an out here.
Correct, counsel, I do. But you do not. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
That is quite an oath, detective. The truth. The whole truth. Nothing but the truth, so help you God. You took that oath before you testified the first time, did you not?
I did.
And detective, did you tell the whole truth? Did you tell the whole truth, detective?
I told the truth. Was it the whole truth? Probably not.
Why is that?
The rules of evidence prohibit us from telling the whole truth.
Be more specific.
Well, here, I was only permitted to talk about this particular case. I was not allowed to introduce facts which went to the defendant's past.
Such as?
Such as the defendant, Colin Danes, had committed rape before.
Detective, why did you neglect to tell the jury this?
If it goes to the suspect's pattern or MO, we can put it in. But defense counsel successfully argued that one prior bad act does not constitute a pattern, so it was suppressed.
Could you discuss for the court the circumstances around that prior event?
Your Honor, with Dawn.
Could you describe for the court the circumstances around that prior event?
Mr. Danes gotten into an altercation with his girlfriend. It got physical. It led to the sexual assault. She didn't want to testify. It ultimately led to a plea bargain. He was convicted of misdemeanor assault.
Detective, you first interviewed the defendant after my sister was killed.
I did.
What'd he tell you?
He said he never meant to kill your sister. He said he was just trying to stop her from screaming. He said he was just trying to keep her quiet.
Did he tell you anything else?
He said he was sorry.
Detective, why did you neglect to include that in your testimony?
Again, I was prohibited from doing so. Defense counsel claimed the statement was coerced, and they won a motion to suppress.
Thank you, Detective. Your witness, counsel.
Detective, Did you handle this prior sexual assault my client was involved with?
No, but as part of my investigation in this case, I learned pretty much everything about it.
And to your knowledge, this was a date rape sort of thing?
Yes. Things got physical at her apartment. At some point, she cut it off, and he forced himself upon her.
And as I understand it, the sex was consensual at first. She tried to put the brakes on, as you say.
And he refused.
So she said. Did she report it?
Not right away. Eventually, she did.
And whose idea was to reduce this to a misdemeanor assault?
The district attorney's.
Do you know why?
She didn't feel she had enough to convict on the felony charge.
She regarded it as a he said, she said sort of thing.
Leading.
I'm in cross-examination.
Stop playing games.
Are we having a trial here or not? The district attorney felt that this victim had some credibility issues, correct?
She might find her more credible now.
And I believe this other woman was reported to have psychological deficits. Is that true?
According to the file, yes.
Okay, let's talk about this case now, can we, Detective? When you went into the interrogation room with my client, you knew of this prior matter?
Yes.
So, you had an idea about a prior case where my client was involved in an alleged sexual assault. You had to pretty much think you had a guilty guy, right?
I certainly was suspicious.
He did it then, he did it this time.
Okay.
You were gonna get that confession, weren't you, Detective? You weren't gonna leave that room until you made sure he had signed a statement saying that he did it.
You're badgering. You can't attack the witness.
He
Can't do
has
that.
weapons and he accuses me of...
All right, sir, all right. Let her continue.
You want to point that thing the other way?
I did not coerce the confession, if that's where you're headed.
Well, you know that's where I'm headed. We went there before without the jury being present, and the judge found that this confession was indeed coerced.
I disagree.
How many hours did you interrogate my client, Detective?
Approximately 14 hours.
14 hours. Started at midnight and went to 2:11 the next afternoon.
That's about right.
That's about right. By the time my client signed his confession, he'd been awake over 30 consecutive hours. I know you record these interrogations often. Did you record this one?
I think the first 6 hours were, after which we stopped recording.
Why?
We don't record every minute of every interrogation.
This was a homicide. If you couldn't get the confession the easy way, you were going to get it the hard way. And you didn't want the cameras rolling then. Who else did you question in connection with this homicide, Detective?
Neighbors? Potential witnesses?
Were there any?
No.
What about associates of the victim? Did you interview any other people who might be considered harm to her? Did you talk to her brother?
There was nobody else with a motive to our knowledge.
To your knowledge, you got a signed confession about 18 hours after Ms. Dracino's death. Did you pursue any other theories, any other suspects besides my client?
There were no other theories or suspects.
Wow, that's a really thorough investigation. Well done, Detective. I don't see the harm.
It could backfire. It means you'd have to face off against him. He gets to come right at you, hopefully not with a gun.
Listen, they already know his past. We'll hear his version otherwise.
I think I could get too volatile.
We got volatile no matter what.
Miss Korn, how we doing? Are you ready?
Yes, Your Honor. The defense calls Colin Danes to the stand.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes, I do. I absolutely do.
I've got him.
Excuse me?
Adam's iPhone. He's Skyping. Call the police, tell him we got this.
Let's talk about the prior incident with your former girlfriend.
It was a very sort of rocky relationship. We both had big tempers,
She accused you of trying to rape her.
which was totally false. She made that up after the fight, in which the DA suspected, by the way. I mean, that's why they refused to charge me with a felony.
Okay, Colin, but if you were innocent, why did you plead to misdemeanor sexual assault?
Well, my lawyer told me to. I'd get no jail time. But if I refused to plead, then there was a chance that they could hit me with a felony and prison. But I never raped her. It just didn't happen.
Okay, let's talk about this case involving Sarah Dracino.
I was there that day. We were fighting. There was a lot of yelling.
What were you fighting about?
I wanted her to take me back, basically. We had broken up a month before, and I wasn't handling it too well.
So what happened next?
That was all. I left around 8 o'clock.
Did the two of you have sex?
No. The truth is, she didn't want anything to do with me. Which... I mean, that's what I was reacting so poorly to.
Well, the autopsy found there was vaginal bruising as well.
That did not come from me. Look, somebody must have come in to see her after me. There was no evidence of any of my semen or my DNA around her genitalia. Because it was not me.
So somebody else murdered her. In remarkably similar circumstances to your prior arrest. That doesn't strike you as a bit of a coincidence?
I think it was no coincidence at all. I think whoever killed her knew of my prior incident and used it to frame me. You know the kind of people she was seeing that last month.
You are a murderer.
You were worried about the company she was keeping.
Especially you.
All right.
You killed my baby.
No, I did not.
Mr. Trissino, please. Your son has requested a second trial. I'm giving you that trial. Let's do this as orderly as we can.
Sarah was acting out in a lot of ways. One was promiscuity. She started hooking up.
He's a liar.
I'm not lying. Hey!
Shut up. Dad. Hey, shh. Hey. Dad, we've got to get through this, okay? Come on. I know. We gotta do this my way. Come on.
Proceed, Counselor.
Now, Colin, if you didn't do it, why did you confess?
I was delirious at the time. I hadn't slept. I was awake for almost 30 hours. Well, they kept pouring coffee down my throat, wouldn't even let me piss. Like, at some point, I think they actually convinced me that maybe I did do it. I did not.
He's making some notes. I think he's about to give a closing of some sort.
What about the father?
He just keeps checking his gun.
Miss Gorin, this is Detective Wallace. We have the perimeter sealed. If you
Yeah, I'd keep it sealed. But I wouldn't come charging in here. Because this whole thing is about to explode like a time bomb.
Maybe you should tank your closing. Just let them win.
I have a feeling that if Colin gets convicted, he'll be executed right in the room.
Is Adam okay?
Yeah, Winnie.
Our 10-minute recess is up. Do you still wish to address the jury, sir?
Yes, I do, Judge. As I said earlier, these trials, they begin with an oath. The truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth. But you didn't get that. In our first trial, you did not learn that the defendant, he confessed to the crime. You didn't learn that he raped another woman. Now, I ask you, if you had known those things, if you knew them, would you have all voted to acquit? My 20-year-old sister, Sarah, her life was ended in the most violent, brutal, raped, beaten, and strangled. And the rules of evidence, the law, it protected him. It protected him like it protects so many criminals at the expense of... She's my baby sister. I'm also a lawyer. Corporate, not criminal. I remember the day I passed the bar. It was joyous. I remember talking to Sarah, telling her what it meant to me to be in the justice business. But what you've done with this verdict... Look, I will go on. I will live out the rest of my days in prison, no doubt. But at least you give me... You come back to me. Come back to me with your verdict based on the facts as you now know them. I'm not asking you to tell me what I want to hear. If you decide to acquit again, I will make my peace. But please, just give me the truth. My sister, she deserves justice.
Mr. Trissino is wrong on two fronts. First, a criminal trial is not about justice for the victim. It's about justice for the defendant, making sure he gets a fair trial. Second, criminal proceedings are not and have never been about truth. The question before this jury, as it is before every jury, is did the prosecution satisfy its burden of proof? Did they prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt? And here, you quite rightly found that they did not. All the evidence showed was that my client was at the victim's house the day she died. None of his DNA was found on her body. There is nothing to connect Colin Danes to Sarah Trissino's body, nor was there anything on Colin's body, or in his car, or in his house to connect him to the victim. Now, as for the newly introduced evidence by Mr. Trissino. First, the former girlfriend's allegation of sexual assault. The prosecutor on that case declined to push on that because A, he questioned the woman's credibility, and B, she had some psychological deficits. Then, there's the so-called confession. The very reason that these coerced confessions are deemed inadmissible is because they're not reliable. Studies show that the longer you put somebody in isolation and deprive them of food and sleep, you can get them to say almost anything. And at the point that Colin Dane signed that piece of paper, he was delirious. There is simply no evidence that is considered more manufactured or more bogus than the coerced confession. That's why that was kept from you. Now, suppose you heard, oh, hey, Colin confessed. Or guess what? He'd been charged with rape before. What would you have done then? It would have been ballgame over. You wouldn't have even bothered to listen to the testimony or weigh the DNA evidence. Your minds would have been made up in a knee-jerk. And that's exactly why we do not let that kind of prejudicial, unreliable, inflammatory evidence in, ever. Taints the process. It brainwashes the jury, and it deprives the defendant of a fair trial. Lucas Trissino held up a picture of his sister. I certainly cannot trump that. But I'm asking you just for 1 second to imagine that this is your son, your best friend, your grandson. He gets falsely accused of rape, and then someone uses that false accusation to incriminate him in a murder. Throw in a coerced confession, and here we are. Would you want a jury that says, that's good enough for me? Or one that demands real and reliable evidence? It's a painful situation. Our hearts go out to the Trissino family. But you simply cannot convict Colin Danes of murder beyond all reasonable doubt with the evidence before you. They didn't even investigate this, for God's sake. Not really. You acquitted before with the recognition that it's possible that somebody came into Sarah's house after Colin Danes left. The same is true now. Nothing's changed. I heard Lucas Trissino ask you for a true and fair verdict, and I believe he was sincere. Give it to him.
We're ready, Judge.
Bailiff?
Dear God.
Here we go.
We're now getting word from attorney Tommy Jefferson, a partner of Harry Korn, that the jury has reached its verdict again.
Guys on the door.
I have the verdict in my hand. How about we let the jury leave since they're done?
No. I want to hear it from them. Nobody leaves.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Colin Danes, on the charges of both murder and rape.
not guilty.
That's it. You're all gonna die!
Mr. Tracino!
Sir!
You shut up, too! You should die first.
Dad.
Mr. Tracino. Your son. He asked that jury for a truthful and fair verdict. I believe they held up their part of the bargain.
Put down the gun, Dad. Put it down.
They're gonna let him go. They're just gonna let him walk out.
Put it down. Come on, give it to me. Come on, Pop. Come on. Dad, no! Dad! Please, with your hand! Please, get down! Get down! Keep your hands right still! Give it a shot! Gun! Down on the ground! Get out! Yes! Fire in right. Your left hand. Don't move.